This old retaining wall is along the creek going up in the Fall Run. Right on the roadbed. That retaining wall there. There's some remnants of the old fence that are along the road coming out of Fall Run. Right next to the creek and the road. Right here are some remnants of an old cellar house. Pretty far up into the Fall Run. Way away from those fields at the mouth of Fall Run where it dumps into Holly River. But you see how the rocks were stacked in here purposely on both sides. Good place. It'd be cool in here. This wouldn't get much sun. Okay, these are the falls in Fall Run. From top to bottom, probably about a 15 feet elevation drop for those falls. Okay, this is at the top of the falls. You can see the rocks stacked on both sides of the creek here where they had a little bridge coming across long ago. Another view of those stacked rocks on the bridge that went across the top of the falls here. There's a definite old path up here along this cliff, leading from the bridge that would have went across the falls up there, right over to this rock cliff here. I don't know, the way the water drips off, maybe this formed ice in the winter, and so spring and early summer they came up here and got some ice, I don't know. I don't see any remnants of coal, so I don't think it's coal. In the area of where these pines are, this is the old Jonas Carpenter place. You'll see a line of trees, starting with this one dead. Fruit trees here that he had planted up here at one time. This is as you go into Fall Run on the left side, up on the bank a little bit. Here's another view of those old dying apple trees. Some of them have a little bit of growth on them still. This one I'm standing close to right here. Still growing. There's a depression here in stacked rocks, and there's actually an old rail sticking out of the rocks up here. I'm going to show you. This might have been the house foundation here. Okay, there's that old railroad track, iron railroad track sticking out. Looks like it was concreted in. I don't know if this is a house foundation here or a cellar house, hard to say. That's looking up in the Fall Run. It's all these small fruit trees that have died out here. The old Jonas Carpenter place. Well, about 50 yards into the woods from the field. You can tell this was a field at one time because of all these old field oak trees here. They wouldn't grow naturally like that. Another big one right there. Right on, probably about 20 yards from the edge of the field. Yeah, the other sure sign next to these old field trees are the rock piles that the farmers would make. There, and there's one in the center there. Clear off the soil, either for grazing their livestock or for planting. Okay, this little ravine that comes off the left side of Fall Run, right at the front here. Look at that water trough over there. I'm going to take a closer look at that. Way up in here. You hear the water trickling down this ravine here on the left side of Fall Run. And here's this watering trough. It's a good 6-7 feet long, 2 feet wide, like a coffin. But you can see it's made out of concrete and wire, so it's a little bit more modern. The last people to live over here, probably the 50s, 60s at the latest, before the government bought all this out, turned it into a wildlife management area with the Corps of Engineers in the state of West Virginia. But this is really unusual how far up this is. Can't even see the field way over there. It's a couple hundred yards down to the river yet. Okay, about 50 yards below that watering trough in this little ravine here, as we're coming back down the ravine towards the right fork of the Holly River, here is what looks like to be another cellar house foundation. The way it's stacked up here in a square. This would have been the front where you went in here. Only about 20 feet below the cellar house foundation I just showed you down this ravine. You know, I noticed the water disappeared, and here's why. It went underground, and here this washed out right here not too long ago. You can see the water flowing underground here, a couple feet. I'm going to sneak down there, hopefully if I don't sink in. Okay, here's the upstream end of that, where the water is coming out. We went underground here. It's good 2 to 3 feet wide and a couple feet high. Kind of looks like it disappears into the rock, the strata there. There's no opening on this end. Okay, I'm about 100 yards below that watering trough. You see I'm back into some of these field oaks. And if you could see the green field light beyond the woods there, that's another 100 yards to the Red Fork of the Holly River. So that watering trough, that concrete watering trough in this ravine is a good 200 yards up it. A lot of water is collected here before you get down to the river. The reason is, if it's hard to see straight across there in the center of the screen, that's the old railroad grade. So when they built that up, it kind of acted like a little bit of a dam here. All this water draining off the hills created a couple little ponds. And downriver from that water feature, you can't see it through a brush there where all that water's flowing. But look at how this railroad grade still stands out. You know, it's humped up here. The reason for that water to collect. After all these years, you could still see it. I guarantee if I had my metal detector here, I'd find at least railroad spikes all over the place. They left those when they pulled the rails up. The last feature I'm going to show you here at Fall Run is the swinging bridge of the Right Fork of the Holly River. It's right next to where the creek dumps out of Fall Run. And the decking in places is pretty bad. Either the Corps engineer is going to have to close it off or repair it before someone gets injured. Part of the bridge, one of these cross members here, next, the third one up there, kind of in the center screen, is broke. So if you step on those, you could fall through right there. You got to walk on the edges. One thing I wanted to show you, Mr. Hines from up in Diana told me this. They've walked the railroad grade, the old Midland Railroad grade, like I have these places, and he mentioned this chain that is embedded in the sycamore tree. As you can see there, it's a pretty heavy chain, and it was wrapped around that branch and just had to grown around it. I don't know if that chain was there to stabilize this swinging bridge at one time or for some other purpose. This is the Right Fork of the Holly River. There's a little bit more water in it than normal for this time of year because of some rains we've had. It's not stirred up. You can see the tree has fallen and some of the branches. You have to duck to get across the bridge here. This is down at Fuccy Bottom, Fall Run, Right Fork of the Holly River.